I did not intend to intrude upon him. I assure you, I did not. However, what I witnessed that evening altered everything. My name is Jamie and I am 24 years old. For the last 6 months, I have been residing with my best friend's older cousin, Lucas. This arrangement was meant to be temporary. The cost of rent in the city was exorbitant, and Lucas had an available room after his previous roommate moved in with his girlfriend. My best friend Ryan facilitated our connection. Lucas is laid back, as Ryan had mentioned. You two will get along. And indeed, we did, perhaps too well. Lucas, at 29, is a nurse, tall and broad-shouldered, possessing a quiet confidence that commands attention when he speaks. He is neither loud nor ostentatious, yet there is something about him that draws attention. When he enters a room, people take notice. I certainly did. From the very first week, I found myself observing him for too long. The way his sleeves clung to his arms after returning from the gym, how he would run his fingers through his hair when deep in thought. These were minor details, innocuous in nature. At least, that is what I convinced myself. We cohabited as typical guys do, relaxed, informal, and respectful. He pursued his interests while I pursued mine. I worked from home in IT support, which meant we frequently crossed paths. However, our interactions were primarily limited to polite exchanges over coffee or light conversation while the microwave hummed. Until that fateful night. It was approximately 10:30 p.m. when I had just concluded a frustrating call with a client who was unfamiliar with the concept of a browser. I headed to the kitchen to fetch some water before retiring for the night. Lucas's door was ajar, which struck me as unusual. He typically closed it when he settled in for the evening. As I passed by, I heard a faint sound, akin to a breath. Neither a snore nor a cough, just a subtle, low noise. I cannot explain what compelled me to pause. Perhaps it was curiosity, or maybe I was concerned that something was amiss. I knocked softly. "Hey, are you all right?" There was no response. I gently pushed the door open further, and there he was. Lucas lay on his bed, shirtless, with the covers barely draped over his waist. His chest rose and fell rhythmically with each breath, and the soft light from his lamp illuminated his skin in a gentle glow. Yet it was not this that captivated me. His hand was positioned beneath the blanket, moving gently while his eyes remained closed, lips slightly parted as if he were lost in the moment. As though he hadn't heard me. My mind short-circuited. I became frozen, unable to move. Anchored to the spot by a surge of emotions I couldn't identify. Shock, embarrassment, arousal. I should have retreated. I should have shut the door, walked away, anything. But then he opened his eyes and noticed me. For a long, breathless moment, we simply gazed at one another. Then he did not yell. He did not scramble for the blanket or throw a pillow at me. Instead, he blinked, slowly, as if he were trying to determine if I was real. His hand remained under the covers, yet he did not withdraw it. "Jamie," he said. Just my name, softly. Curiously, my throat felt dry. I couldn't get my mouth to function. I hadn't meant to. "Sorry, I thought you." I began to back away, my heart thudding in my chest, but he did not allow me to finish. "It's all right, Lucas," said, and there was something in his voice that I did not anticipate. Not anger, not shame, but something different. He sat up slightly, the blanket slipping lower on his hips, and he regarded me not as a roommate, not as my best friend's cousin, but as something entirely different. "I didn't lock the door," he murmured almost to himself. "I wondered if you would come." I stared at him. "What?" Lucas licked his lips. "Forget it," he said quickly, shaking his head, the moment dissipating. "Just go to bed, Jamie." But I remained still because something within me had already transformed. I could not pretend I had not seen the look in his eyes. I should have departed. That would have been the rational thing to do. Walk away, close the door, act as if I hadn't just witnessed my roommate, in a vulnerable moment, whisper my name as if it held significance. But I did not leave. Instead, I stood there, dumbfounded, like a man who had just stepped into traffic and forgotten how to walk. Lucas noticed. His expression changed. Still calm, still quiet, but now there was something more behind it. Attention, perhaps a question. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded. Too quickly. Indeed. I simply did not anticipate. He inclined his head slightly. Did not anticipate. What? I was unable to respond. My face felt warm, my throat constricted. I was uncertain of my reaction at that moment. Was it the surprise of it or the manner in which his voice lowered when he spoke as if he wanted me to feel it deep within? Lucas sighed more to himself than to me. Damn, he murmured. I realized this was a poor decision. I finally found my voice. What decision? He then looked up at me. Truly looked, leaving the door ajar. My breath caught. You did that intentionally? He did not respond right away. He simply sat there on the edge of his bed, partially covered, his body relaxed, yet his eyes were keen, scanning me. I was unsure how to interpret the expression on his face. Was it regret? Hope? Not really, he finally said. Not precisely. But I have been contemplating for some time. Thought perhaps? He trailed off. Thought? Perhaps what? I inquired, my voice barely audible. Lucas exhaled softly. Thought perhaps you had been pondering as well. That struck me like a blow to the chest. Because I had been for weeks, perhaps months. Every glance, every shirtless stroll to the fridge, every instance our fingers brushed when we passed each other the remote. I had dismissed it all as coincidence, wishful thinking. Why now? I questioned. He offered a slight shrug. I do not. No. It simply felt like tonight was the night. You had that expression on your face earlier, as if something was troubling you. I was at a loss for words. I had not realized I was so transparent. Yet he was not mistaken. Something had indeed been troubling me. The low-grade tension I had been carrying since the day I moved in. And now, standing there in his doorway with him, partially undressed and gazing at me as if he was waiting. It was intolerable. Lucas shifted slightly, the blanket slipping further down his hips. You do not have to do anything, he said softly. We can pretend this never occurred. It is your choice. I swallowed hard. But if I do not wish to pretend, his brow raised slightly. Then you close the door, he said, voice steady, and come here. My heart pounded against my ribs. Hesitated just long enough to experience the fear. Then I reached behind me, located the doorknob, and slowly, deliberately clicked it shut. Lucas's gaze remained fixed on mine. I took a step forward, then another. Upon reaching the bed, he shifted back, allowing me space. I sat down on the edge of the mattress, not touching him. My palms were clammy, my legs rigid. He was right there, so near that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. Yet I still wasn't certain if I was dreaming. Have you ever done this before? Lucas inquired softly. My breath caught. Then with a guy? He nodded. No, I responded. Lucas did not appear surprised. Me neither, he replied. I turned my head. Really? He offered a faint smile. I mean, I've contemplated it extensively, but never acted upon it. Not until, well, now I suppose. That response shouldn't have provided me comfort, but it did. It made this feel less like I was getting in over my head, and more like we were both standing at the same precipice, gazing over. What now? I asked. He leaned in, his voice a whisper. You tell me. I reached out slowly, hesitantly, my fingers brushing against his arm. His skin was warm. He did not flinch. He leaned into the touch. And for a moment we simply sat there, two roommates caught in a moment that neither of us had anticipated, yet both of us had been circling for weeks. Then he reached up, his hand cradling the back of my neck, and he kissed me. It wasn't what I had anticipated. I thought it might be awkward, clumsy, like two guys attempting to figure out how to fit together in a moment that shouldn't have existed. But it wasn't that. Not even close. Lucas kissed me as if he had been holding back for years. Like he had envisioned this exact moment in his mind 1,000 times. And finally, he no longer had to keep it behind his teeth. His lips were soft yet assured. And when his hand slid to the side of my face, I leaned into it. Without a second thought, my hand found his shoulder, gripping gently, uncertain if I was anchoring myself or him. I sensed the tension in his muscles, the way his chest rose and fell more rapidly than before. It wasn't only me who was trembling. When we separated, I remained close, our foreheads almost touching, both of us breathing heavily. All right, I murmured. So that occurred. Lucas let out a brief laugh, low and breathless. Yes, that occurred. We lingered in that moment for a minute. No urgency, no pressure, just the intimacy, the warmth between us, and the sound of our breathing, attempting to establish a rhythm. I pulled back slightly, gazing at him in the soft light. His face appeared different, somehow more open. His typical guarded expression had vanished, replaced by something raw and sincere. I thought you were straight, I remarked, not an accusation, merely out of curiosity. I believed I was too, he replied. Or perhaps I just convinced myself I had to be because of Ryan. I inquired. He nodded. And family, work, everything really. But then you moved in, and he trailed off as if he were unsure how to articulate the rest. You began to feel things. I completed his thought. He met my gaze. Yes. I nodded slowly. Same. He seemed to relax a bit when I said that, as if he wasn't the only one harboring something significant inside. You're not panicking? He asked. I let out a dry laugh. Internally a little, but primarily I'm trying to remain present so I don't ruin this. You're not, he said quickly. Trust me, you're not. I leaned back slightly on the bed, my hand still resting on his arm. The atmosphere between us had changed. It was no longer about desire or confusion. It had evolved into something deeper, a recognition. I don't know what this is, I stated, but I don't want it to be a one-night affair. Lucas didn't hesitate. It's not. The conviction in his voice struck me harder than the kiss. It felt as though he had made his decision long before tonight, as if he had merely been waiting for me to catch up. So what do we do now? I asked. He smiled slightly. We take it slow. We don't inform Ryan. Not yet. We figure this out together. I nodded. Okay. Then he leaned in once more, this time more slowly, and kissed me as if there were no hurry. There was no pressure, merely a quiet acknowledgement that something had shifted between us and we were both open to exploring where it might lead. Eventually, we reclined on his bed, side by side, fully dressed, yet incredibly close. He encircled me with his arm and I did not withdraw. I have never shared a bed with anyone in this manner, he whispered. Neither have I. Are you comfortable? Yes, I replied. Strangely, he laughed. I suppose we will figure it out. The last thing I recall before drifting off to sleep was the rhythmic thump of his heart against my back and the peculiar, unfamiliar peace that accompanied it. I awoke before he did. The light streaming through the blinds was gentle, a soft morning gray, and everything in the room felt tranquil, as if the world had not yet acknowledged what transpired the previous night, as if it were granting us a moment to regain our composure before reality set in. Lucas's arm remained around me. It was not heavy, but rather firm, as if even in slumber he was reluctant to release me. I lingered there for a time, motionless, simply sensing the rise and fall of his chest behind me. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, yet oddly, I did not experience the anxiety I anticipated. There was no guilt, no shame, only a careful serenity. Eventually, he began to stir. His breathing changed, and I felt a slight tightening of his arm before he opened his eyes. Hey, he murmured, his voice hoarse from sleep. Morning, I whispered. For a brief moment, we both remained there. Then Lucas slightly withdrew his arm, as if he suddenly recalled his surroundings and the person beside him. Apologies, he said. I didn't intend to hold on like that. It's fine, I replied, turning to face him. I didn't mind. He gazed at me, his eyes probing. Are you sure? I nodded. Yes, waking up next to you is a new experience, but not an unpleasant one. His lips curled into a faint smile. Yes, new. We rose slowly, taking turns in the bathroom as if nothing had altered, despite the fact that everything had. I headed to the kitchen first and began brewing coffee. When Lucas joined me a few minutes later, it felt almost effortless to fall back into our familiar routine. Almost. I handed him a mug. He accepted it, our fingers brushing momentarily, and that single touch was sufficient to send a jolt through my spine. We refrained from discussing the night before. Not immediately, but the atmosphere between us had changed. It was charged, a bit delicate, as if we were both attempting not to shatter the moment. Around noon, I was seated on the couch, laptop open, yet hardly typing, when Lucas emerged from his room dressed in jeans and a simple black hoodie. He appeared casual, ordinary, but I could sense he was deeply contemplating something. Are you busy? He inquired. I shook my head. Nope, just pretending to work. He settled down across from me, resting his elbows on his knees. Can we talk? Yes, certainly. He paused. Last night, that wasn't merely me feeling lonely or intoxicated or confused. I closed my laptop. I didn't believe it was He seemed relieved. Good. Because it truly wasn't. I had been experiencing these feelings for a while. About you. I leaned forward slightly. Same. That word again. Simple yet weighty. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, then gazed at me. So what do we do? I offered a half smile. You mean, aside from panicking? He chuckled. Exactly. I think we should not rush it, I stated. We continue to communicate. We determine what this is. He nodded. All right. And we don't inform Ryan. Not yet, I said. Let's understand us first. He exhaled as if he had been holding that breath for days. Thank you. For what? For not panicking. For not making me feel like a mistake. I stood up and crossed the room, sitting beside him. This time. You're not, I said softly but firmly. None of this is. He turned his head, slightly, his eyes meeting mine. Then, without hesitation, he kissed me again. Not because we were caught in the heat of the moment, but because he could, because he desired to. And this time, when we separated, there wasn't a single doubt in my mind. The following week was a peculiar kind of bliss. We did not make any grand declarations. There were no candlelit dinners or profound confessions whispered in the dark. It wasn't like that. It was more subdued, more subtle. It was Lucas, brushing past me at a pace that felt slightly slower than necessary. It was the way our knees met under the table and neither of us shifted away. It was goodnight kisses that began gently and gradually culminating, with both of us smiling into each other's mouths. However, we kept it private, an unspoken agreement. Ryan still visited on weekends, crashing on the couch completely unaware that the two guys preparing his morning coffee had spent the night nestled in the same bed. We maintained the facade so effectively that even I occasionally forgot that this was new, that we hadn't always shared this closeness. Yet subtle details revealed our secret, if one was observant. Like the way Lucas's gaze lingered on me when he believed no one was observing. Or how I would begin washing the dishes and he would simply stand beside me drying plates as if it were the most natural thing in the world. One evening after Ryan departed, I discovered Lucas in the kitchen, perched on the counter, consuming a slice of cold leftover pizza. He was dressed in gym shorts and a loose white tee, his hair damp from a shower. He looked good, perhaps too good. Are you ever going to eat that like a normal person? I teased, gesturing towards the pizza. He smiled. Cold pizza is elite. You know it. I approached, took the crust from his hand, and took a bite. He observed me with an amused expression, as if he couldn't fathom my existence. Then, abruptly, his demeanor shifted to seriousness. Do you think this will become complicated? I swallowed. What about us? He nodded. I keep pondering it. About what occurs if Ryan discovers the truth or if it ceases to feel effortless. I leaned against the counter beside him. It's already complicated, but that doesn't imply it's wrong. He gazed at me. I don't want to ruin this. You won't, I assured him. We won't. Lucas set the pizza down, then took my hand. Promise me something, he said. Okay. If this ever becomes strange, if it ever feels off, we will discuss it. No vanishing. No pretending it didn't occur. Deal, I replied, tightening my grip on his hand. He exhaled. Okay. Good. There was a stillness, the pleasant kind, where silence reigned. We simply stood there, our hands intertwined, our bodies mere inches apart. Then Lucas jumped down from the counter and offered me a half smile. You know, for a guy who used to mumble every time I entered the room, you seem oddly self-assured now. I chuckled. Well, once you've witnessed someone sleeping with their mouth agape and drooling, it kind of evens the playing field. Lucas rolled his eyes. That was just one time. It was last night. He reached for the back of my neck, drawing me in for a kiss to silence me. It was effective. That night, we fell asleep as we had every night for the past week. Entwined, at ease, and quiet. But for the first time, Lucas murmured something just before drifting off. I don't believe this is merely a phase. I remained still, my heart racing. Neither do I whispered back. We kept it under wraps for another 3 weeks. It wasn't that we felt embarrassed. It simply felt delicate, as if voicing it aloud would shatter the enchantment we were experiencing. However, eventually we could no longer evade it. Ryan came over one Saturday afternoon, full of energy and jokes, discussing some girl he was dating and a disastrous Tinder date he had just endured. Lucas and I played along, laughing at the appropriate moments, interjecting the occasional sarcastic comment, but I sensed the tension mounting. It wasn't anything overt, just the way Lucas and I navigated around each other. The way his hand brushed against mine on the counter and lingered for a moment too long. The way I gazed at him when he wasn't paying attention. But Ryan wasn't oblivious. We were all seated in the living room watching an action film when he paused the screen and turned to us. All right, what on earth is happening? I froze. What? He squinted at us. You too, you're acting strange. Like strange in a way that suggests something is happening. Lucas remained silent. So did I. Ryan scrutinized us for a moment longer, then gradually leaned back, a grin spreading across his face. Holy Ryan, I began. You're involved, he said, gesturing between us. Aren't you? Lucas rubbed his hand across his face, clearly caught between laughter and a groan. Are you mad? I inquired cautiously. Ryan blinked in response. Mad? No. I mean, yeah. It's a bit strange at first, but if you're happy, then I'm fine with it. Lucas exhaled deeply. That's it? What did you expect me to do? Start yelling? Ryan replied, come on, man. You're my cousin, not a cult leader. We all chuckled, the tension dissipating immediately. Just don't let me hear anything through the walls, okay? Ryan added with a smile. I'm already traumatized enough from your last roommate. Later that evening, after Ryan had left, Lucas and I sat in silence on the couch for a while. You okay? I asked, and he nodded. Yeah, just relieved. I leaned against him. He took it better than I anticipated. Me too. We remained like that, comfortable in a way that only occurs after a secret is finally revealed and the world doesn't come crashing down. From that night forward, things began to change. We no longer concealed our feelings. We didn't flaunt them either, it simply became something genuine, something stable. Lucas would leave notes on the fridge in the mornings when he had early shifts. I would prepare late-night grilled cheese sandwiches for him when he returned home. Occasionally, we would doze off on the couch halfway through a movie, our legs intertwined, the TV still illuminating the dark room. And every now and then we would share those quiet moments, brushing our teeth side by side, folding laundry, walking to the corner store for ice cream, and I would catch him gazing at me as if he still couldn't believe this was real. To be honest, neither could I. But it was. The end of summer arrived quietly. The heat subsided. The days grew shorter. And with the change of season came the questions we had been reluctant to ask. What now? Lucas had always been aware that my lease was temporary. I was meant to move out at the end of August into a new place with some classmates from my graduate program. That had been the plan from the beginning. However, plans change, especially when your roommate transforms into your boyfriend. One night, I sat on the edge of the bed,